The year is 740 BC. The king of Judah is dead. His name was Uzziah. For 52 years, he held the nation together. Now the throne is empty. The people are panicking, and a man named Isaiah walks into the temple in Jerusalem. He is mourning. He is desperate for answers. But what he is about to witness will permanently shatter his understanding of the universe. As Isaiah stands in the quiet sanctuary, the massive stone foundations of the temple begin to violently shake beneath his feet. The air grows incredibly thick. It becomes heavy and completely suffocating with dark smoke. Through the swirling haze, Isaiah looks up and sees something impossible. He doesn't see a comforting, peaceful light. He doesn't hear the gentle strumming of a harp. He sees a massive throne, high and exalted, and hovering above it are entities that completely defy human logic. These are the Seraphim. The ancient Hebrew word literally translates to the burning ones. They are entirely consumed by divine fire. Each of these terrifying creatures has 6 massive wings. With 2 wings, they cover their faces, shielding their own eyes from the blinding, radioactive holiness of the Creator. With 2 wings, they cover their feet. And with the final 2, they fly, constantly screaming out to one another, with voices so deafeningly loud that they cause the very stone doorways of the temple to vibrate and crack apart. Isaiah does not feel peace. He feels absolute, overwhelming terror. He collapses to the cold stone floor, utterly convinced that his life is over. He screams out that he is ruined, destroyed simply by being in the same room as these creatures. This reaction should pause every single one of you, because when you think of angels today, you picture something entirely different. These creatures are not chubby babies resting lazily on white clouds. They are not your deceased relatives earning their wings after living a good life. They are not gentle, passive guardians quietly watching you sleep at night. They are lethal, terrifying, cosmic military entities. They are the active, aggressive soldiers of heaven's army. And the further you read into the ancient texts of the Bible, the more you realize that the invisible realm all around you is highly organized. Heaven is not a democracy. It is a strict, heavily armed hierarchy with a clear chain of command. From the foot soldiers carrying out tactical strikes on earth to the massive, multi-eyed entities spinning violently around the throne of God, every single angel holds a specific rank. But before you break down that chain of command, you have to ask a massive question. It is a question that most people completely overlook. Yet it changes exactly how you understand the entire biblical story. Think back to the very beginning. When Adam and Eve were exiled from the Garden of Eden, God placed a specific rank of angels, the cherubim, at the entrance. He handed them a flaming sword that flashed relentlessly back and forth. Their only mission was to guard the way back to the tree of life. Thousands of years later, when the Israelites built the great temple in Jerusalem, God commanded them to take those exact same terrifying creatures and stitch their images into the heavy curtain that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the human race. Why? Why were those exact entities placed there? What were they actually guarding behind that thick curtain? And perhaps the most terrifying question of all, what happened to them when Jesus was crucified and that massive veil was violently torn in two? Hold on to that thought, because to understand the absolute climax of the human story, you first need to understand the spiritual soldiers who were ordered to enforce it. Let's pull back the curtain on the unseen realm, starting with the boots on the ground. Let us start with the lowest tier of the angelic hierarchy, the boots on the ground, the infantry. The word used in the ancient Hebrew text is malach. In the Greek New Testament, the word is angelos. Both words literally mean messenger. but you need to completely erase the modern image of a friendly postman delivering a letter. These messengers are soldiers, and they carry lethal authority. To understand how these ground forces operate, you have to look at the 19th chapter of Genesis. The setting is the city of Sodom. A man named Lot has taken in two strangers for the night. To the naked eye, these two entities look like completely normal, average human men. There are no glowing halos. There are no massive wings. They look like travelers. But as the sun goes down, a massive, violent mob surrounds Lot's house. The entire city has shown up. They are shouting. They are demanding that Lot send the two strangers outside so they can brutally assault them. Lot is panicking. He steps outside and tries to negotiate with this ruthless crowd. It fails. The mob surges forward. They are screaming, pushing, and they are inches away from tearing the wooden door right off its heavy iron hinges. And what do these two messengers do? They do not panic. They do not negotiate. They simply reach their hands outside, grab Lot by his clothes, and physically drag him back into the house. They shut the door, and in the very next second, they strike every single man outside with instant, total blindness. The text says the mob exhausted themselves staggering around in the dark, desperately trying to find the doorway. It was a casual, effortless display of overwhelming physical force by entities that looked completely human. If that is the raw power of the lowest rank, what happens when you move further up the chain of command? You meet the elite messengers, and one of the most terrifying encounters with an elite messenger happens in the first chapter of Luke. His name is Gabriel. Today, artists love to paint Gabriel holding a delicate white lily, smiling softly at Mary. But if you read the actual text, his presence is utterly terrifying. An elderly priest named Zechariah is inside the temple in Jerusalem. It is the absolute peak of his long career. He has been chosen to burn incense in the holy place. He is completely alone in the dim, quiet room. Suddenly, an entity materializes out of thin air, standing right next to the altar. The text explicitly says Zechariah was gripped with fear. He was terrified. Gabriel delivers incredible news. He tells the old man that his barren wife is going to have a son, and his name will be John. But Zechariah makes a critical mistake. He questions the logistics. He asks for proof. He essentially looks at this towering supernatural entity and says, "How can I be sure you are actually telling the truth?" Gabriel does not gently comfort him. He does not offer a warm smile. He responds with a statement of pure, terrifying military rank. He looks down at the priest and says, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God." For questioning an officer of the divine court, Gabriel instantly strikes the old man completely deaf and mute. For 9 solid months, Zechariah cannot hear a sound, and he cannot speak a single word. You do not second-guess a commander who takes his direct orders from the throne room of the universe. But it gets stranger, because there is a rank that sits even higher than Gabriel. The Greek word is Archangelos, the chief angel, the supreme commander. In the entire Bible, only one entity is explicitly given this specific title. His name is Michael. You will never find Michael delivering good news to a priest in a temple. You will never find him blinding a small mob in a city street. Whenever Michael shows up in the biblical text, a massive geopolitical or cosmic war is breaking out. He is the warrior prince of Israel. And in the tiny, obscure book of Jude, you see a terrifying glimpse of exactly how he operates. Jude chapter 1 verse 9 describes a moment so bizarre and intense that most people skip right over it. Michael is locked in a direct, face-to-face dispute with the devil himself. They are fighting a legal and spiritual war over something highly specific. They are arguing over the physical deceased body of Moses. Why? You do not fully know. Perhaps the devil wanted to turn the bones of Moses into an idol for the Israelites to worship. But notice what Michael does. As the supreme commander of heaven's armies, he does not throw an arrogant insult. He does not lose his temper. Even with all his immense power, he holds his ground, respects the cosmic legal boundaries, and simply says, "The Lord rebuke you." He executes the will of the commander-in-chief with absolute, lethal precision. He is fighting a war you cannot see, enforcing boundaries you do not even know exist. And yet, Michael is still only operating within our atmosphere. To find the highest, most incomprehensible ranks of angels, you have to leave the earth entirely. You have to look at the massive, unseen forces governing the universe itself. Think about the sheer scale of what you have uncovered so far. You are looking at an unseen military structure where the absolute lowest-ranking foot soldiers can effortlessly blind a furious mob. You see elite messengers strike priests with instant disability. You watch supreme commanders fight supernatural legal battles over the physical remains of ancient prophets. And you are still only operating in the lower atmosphere. You have not even approached the terrifying realities of the throne room yet. If you are beginning to see the Bible in a completely different light, if you want to strip away the comfortable Sunday school myths and uncover the raw, unfiltered truth of the Scriptures, take a single second to hit the subscribe button right now. It is the best way to ensure you can keep uncovering these ancient texts together. Now, stay with me, because as you move out of the atmosphere and into the cosmic command structure, things are about to get infinitely more intense. In the 1st century, a man named Paul sat in a Roman prison cell. He was writing letters to tiny, struggling groups of believers scattered across the empire. But he was not writing abstract poetry. He was writing military intelligence. He was outlining the exact chain of command of the invisible realm. In his letter to the Colossians, the 1st chapter, verse 16, Paul reveals that the unseen world is divided into 4 massive tiers of authority. He lists them in order: thrones, dominions, principalities, and powers. These are not individual foot soldiers. These are massive, overlapping jurisdictions of cosmic authority. Think of a modern global military force. You have the troops on the ground, but above them, you have theater commanders. You have generals overseeing entire continents. You have officials managing the intricate logistics, the supply lines, and the geopolitical boundaries of the battlefield. That is exactly what Paul is describing. What is a throne? The ancient Greek word is thronos. This rank represents entities holding absolute, immovable sovereign authority over massive domains. They are the cosmic foundations of divine justice. What is a dominion? The Greek word is kyriates, which translates to lordship. If thrones establish the foundation, dominions are the strategic administrators. They organize the lower ranks. They ensure the physical laws of the universe and the spiritual laws of heaven are perfectly executed. They are the supreme logistical commanders of reality. To understand just how seriously the ancient world took this military structure, you have to look outside the Bible for a moment. In the 1st century, there was a brilliant Roman Jewish historian named Flavius Josephus. He meticulously documented the inner workings of a hardcore, deeply isolated Jewish sect living in the desert. They were called the Essenes. Josephus recorded something absolutely fascinating about them. When a man wanted to join this strict community, he could not simply walk in. He had to take a series of terrifying blood oaths. He had to swear to keep the secrets of the group, even under the threat of torture. And one of the absolute highest, most strictly guarded secrets they swore to protect was the specific names, ranks, and hierarchy of the angels. They treated this information like highly classified military intelligence. You do not swear a blood oath over chubby babies playing harps. You do not risk your life to protect the names of gentle guardians. You swear a blood oath when you are dealing with cosmic weapons of mass destruction. Paul brings this terrifying reality right to your front door in his letter to the Ephesians. In the 6th chapter, verse 12, he issues a massive warning. He tells you that your real problems are not human. He says, you do not wrestle against flesh and blood. You wrestle against these very entities, against the principalities, against the powers, against the cosmic rulers of this present darkness. Look at the world around you. When you see nations suddenly collapsing into chaos, when you see inexplicable waves of violence sweeping across a region, you are not just watching political instability. You are watching the fallout of an unseen war. You are seeing the physical, earthly results of spiritual theater commanders. These principalities and powers clashing in the invisible realm over geographic territories. To prove exactly how this territorial logistics system works, look at the ancient book of Daniel. In the 10th chapter, Daniel's been fasting and praying in agony for 21 straight days. Finally, an elite messenger angel arrives. And what does the angel tell him? He says, Daniel, I heard your prayer on the very first day, but I could not get to you. Why? Because the prince of Persia blocked the supply line. A high-ranking demonic principality holding absolute spiritual authority over the entire Persian Empire intercepted this messenger. It took a brutal 3-week spiritual firefight in the atmosphere just to get a single message through. And the angel only broke through the line because Michael, the supreme commander, was deployed as heavy reinforcements. But it gets stranger. This terrifying cosmic warfare is happening right now, directly above you. These massive entities are actively battling for influence over governments, cities, and human culture. They are deeply involved in the violent logistics of human history. Yet, incredibly, none of these ranks, not the thrones, not the dominions, not the principalities, not the powers, are allowed into the deepest, most terrifying space in the universe. They govern the cosmos, but they do not guard the immediate presence of the Creator. To find the entities that do, you have to leave the battlefield entirely. You have to step past the command centers and enter the very center of the universe. The year is 593 BC. A priest named Ezekiel is sitting in the mud by the Kibar River in Babylon. He is a prisoner of war. His nation has been destroyed. His temple is gone. And as he stares out across the desolate landscape, a massive, terrifying storm begins to form in the north. Lightning flashes relentlessly. A massive cloud of fire rolls toward him. And out of the center of that fire, Ezekiel sees the absolute highest, most lethal ranks of heaven's military structure. He is looking at the chariot of God. The first entities he sees are the cherubim. Forget everything art history has taught you. These are not winged infants. Ezekiel describes towering, terrifying chimeras. Each of these entities has 4 distinct faces: the face of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. They have 4 wings. They do not turn when they move. They move with terrifying, lightning-fast precision, darting back and forth like flashes of electricity. But below the cherubim is something even stranger, something completely alien to the human mind. Ezekiel sees the Ophanim. The Hebrew word translates to the wheels. He describes massive, interlocking gyroscopes hovering in the air. The rims of these enormous wheels are completely covered in unblinking eyes. They contain the very spirit of the living creatures. Wherever the spirit wants to go, the terrifying, multi-eyed wheels go instantly. Think about the highest echelons of a modern military structure. Think about a Tier 1 Special Operations Unit, or the innermost security rings of the Pentagon, the absolute highest ranking. Most elite, lethal units in the world are not deployed for minor street skirmishes. They are not sent to hand out rations. They exist for one singular, uncompromising purpose. They guard the commander-in-chief. They protect the most high-value, critical location in the entire operation. That is exactly what the Cherubim and the Ophanim do. They do not fight the principalities in the atmosphere. They do not deliver messages to priests. They guard the radioactive, lethal, unfiltered holiness of the Creator. And this brings you back to the massive question asked at the very beginning. When Adam and Eve rebelled, why did God place these specific entities? The cherubim, at the entrance of the Garden of Eden. Why give them a violently flashing, flaming sword? Because human rebellion and divine holiness are like throwing water onto a massive electrical fire. The result is instant destruction. The cherubim were not placed there simply to punish humanity. They were a firewall. They were stationed at the gates of Eden to keep sinful humans from wandering into the pure, unfiltered presence of God and being instantly destroyed. Thousands of years later, when the Israelites built the temple in Jerusalem, that same dynamic remained. The Holy of Holies was the throne room on earth. The presence of God was inside. And what did God command them to embed into the massive, heavy curtain that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the world? The cherubim. That thick, heavy veil was the physical boundary line. The woven cherubim stood there for centuries as a terrifying, silent warning to every single person who walked into the temple. The warning was clear. The way is shut. The elite guards are at their post. Do not enter. But then everything changes. Outside the city of Jerusalem, on a garbage-filled hill called Golgotha, Jesus of Nazareth is nailed to a Roman cross. He is bleeding. He is suffocating. The sky turns completely black in the middle of the day. Jesus takes one final, agonizing breath. He cries out, "It is finished," and he dies. And in that exact fraction of a second, the Gospel of Matthew tells you exactly what happened inside the temple. The massive, heavy veil separating humanity from the Holy of Holies was violently torn in two, completely ripped apart from top to bottom. Do you realize what that actually means? The blood of the Son of God completely satisfied the absolute justice of heaven. The sin that caused the electrical fire was washed away. And because of that, the firewall was dropped. The cherubim barrier was permanently broken. The flaming sword at the entrance to Eden was extinguished. The highest, most terrifying, lethal ranks of heaven's army are no longer standing against you. They are no longer keeping you out. Because of what Jesus did on that Roman cross, the elite guards of the throne room have stood down, and the way into the presence of the Creator is completely, permanently open to you. So where does this leave you? When you look at the sheer, terrifying scale of heaven's military, from the messengers executing ground operations in Sodom to the massive burning Seraphim guarding the throne of the universe, you are forced to walk away with three absolute truths. First, the invisible realm is not a comfortable myth. It is a highly organized, heavily armed, and incredibly active reality. There is a cosmic war happening over human history right now, and it is far more complex than you can even begin to comprehend. Second, you must remember that these entities, as powerful and overwhelming as they are still just servants. They are soldiers. They do not exist to be prayed to. They do not exist to be worshipped. They exist solely to reflect the glory of the Commander-in-Chief. Even the mighty Seraphim have to cover their own eyes in his presence. And third, the most important truth of all, Because of the blood of Jesus, the highest security clearance in the universe has been given directly to you. The veil is torn. You do not need to stand outside in terror anymore. You have absolute, unrestricted access to the God who commands the armies of heaven. I want to hear from you. Which angelic rank surprised you the most today? Was it the ground-level messengers in Genesis, the territorial theater commanders, or the terrifying wheels of Ezekiel? Let me know down in the comments below. The next time you read the Bible and an angel suddenly appears, pay close attention to the very first words they always say. Do not be afraid. They do not say it because they look friendly. They say it because they know exactly what they are. They are the lethal enforcers of heaven. And yet, if you belong to the Creator, those exact same enforcers are fighting on your side.